NFL Show Special Edition. We're on Friday. The Super Bowl is in 2 days. And I want to remind you that the Grilling True Sports Network is brought to you by betting.net. And betting.net is your best bet to finding the online casino or sportsbook that's right for you. So make sure you go to betting.net and check them out. I'm your co-host for the NFL Show, Mike Goodpaster. Right now, I would like to welcome in, as always, my co-host, member of the Indiana Basketball Hall of Fame, Indiana Hoosier, 1981 national champion, Steve Risley. How you doing, Steve?
Doing good. It's awful early out here in L.A. I mean, I don't think this city's moving yet after the wild and woolly NFL Honors Awards last night.
Yeah, I'm
and
sure
we were
everybody's
supposed to be
celebrating.
joined by our Jamaican connection,
Yeah,
but
they're
as
not
you
here.
can see, well, I guess life moves a heck of a lot slower on the islands.
I don't know.
So,
We told them 11 a.m. our time, but they're
yeah.
not here unless they had some technical issues, which is always possible. All right, so we're going to change gears a little bit because I'm about Super Bowl talked out where I live. That's everything that's talked about on the news 24/7. We're going to talk about the NFL honors last night.
You know what's
And
funny about that, Mike? Where I
what?
live, which is about 30 minutes from SoFi Stadium,
Nobody knows.
nobody's talking about it.
No. Because,
except the people that want the homeless people moved off of Venice Beach.
And the bad thing is the Rams are a home team in the Super Bowl and nobody's talking about it.
They aren't the home team in the Super Bowl.
Well, you know what I mean now. They're playing on their home field.
Right, but they're not the home team.
Well, no, because it rotates back and forth every year.
Yeah, the Bengals are the home team.
And they should be.
And I still say the biggest mistake made in this postseason was the Bengals not going with their white uniforms.
Oh, in the Super Bowl?
They cruised through the playoffs in their white unis, and now they decide to go black.
Not necessarily, because their first playoff game against the Raiders, they actually wore black, Steve.
Well, that's just because they didn't want the Raiders to wear black.
That's because they were at home.
That's like everybody chooses to wear white against the Cowboys because the Cowboys hate wearing their blues.
Oh, I think that was more of an old superstition than anything else. But
Yeah.
I do know in the 70s and 80s, especially late 70s, early 80s, everybody always wore white just to make them wear blue. So
Yeah.
I don't know why. I kind of like the blue.
I just said
uniforms
that,
more
Mike.
better than today. No, you said today they still do. I don't know that they still do because I don't know that the Cowboys are relevant enough for anybody to care what jersey they wear.
Hey, Jerry Jones was the only owner I saw there last night.
Yeah, he's the only guy that just had to get attention and get on TV.
Well, whatever floats your boat, baby.
All right, let's look at the NFL honors last night. MVP, Aaron Rodgers. Agree or disagree, Steve?
I don't know. I think the days of Aaron Rodgers have come and gone. And a guy needs to get a haircut.
Doesn't he look like a homeless guy a little bit?
Yeah, he needs to get a haircut. It looks like he blends right in on Venice Beach. I don't know. I don't think that he was the most valuable player. I think, truthfully, honestly, I hate to say it, it probably was Joe Burrow's. But unfortunately, with Aaron with Rodgers on his last leg, and as it turns out, Brady off his legs for now anyway. Of course, we didn't know that at the time of the voting, because voting for the MVPs and stuff like that does end at the end of the regular season. I think probably Joe Burrow probably deserved the award as much as anybody, but I just, it's still a good old boy network, however you want to slice it. But if it's a sentimental pick, I would have probably gone with Brady over Rodgers, but who am I to say?
I think Brady had the better season, especially when you consider all the injuries that Bucs had.
He had the better season. He led the NFL passing in almost every category.
Yeah.
So definitely in that point. But to me, that's what the Offensive Player of the Year award is for, and the MVP is for who helped carry their team the most. I think Joe Burrow did that as much as anybody in the NFL. As it goes from there. What do you think?
Well, I think Tom Brady or Joe Burrow should have been the winner. The Joe Burrow would probably be considered a homer for me, but
Well, it's okay to be a homer when you're right.
When you had a team though last year that only won 4 games, and then all of a sudden they're in the Super Bowl the next year. The reason for that was Joe Burrow, and I know they didn't know he was going to the Super Bowl, but he did take a team from 4 wins to 10 wins. He overcame a catastrophic injury, and then you've got Tom Brady, who was as good as anybody that ever played a game again, and he was 44 years old. So actually, if you put a gun to my head and said I had to pick one, I would probably go Tom Brady. I think Joe Burrow is going to have plenty of opportunities to win them over the next 10 or
Sure.
15 years. And I think Brady, you take Brady off the Bucks, there's a lot of talent on that team, but they're not going to win anything. You could probably say the same thing about everybody here that we're talking about. And I think you had Cooper Kupp, who won Offensive Player of the Year.
Yeah.
I think you could find him as an MVP. I think there is a small case to be made for Jonathan Taylor. I don't think as much since they lost those last 2 or 3 games and missed the playoffs.
I agree.
I think this. I think if Jonathan Taylor would have blown up against the Raiders and they'd have made the playoffs because of him, I think Jonathan Taylor definitely could have been in this conversation. But
right, and see, I guess it's how you slice bread. I slice it this way: that the Offensive Player of the Year is for the most prolific offensive player of the season for any team, regardless of anything else. Just who had the most outstanding offensive or defensive year.
Yeah, and I think no doubt that was Cooper Kupp.
I think so, yeah. When I say MVP, I look at who is the player in the league whose team would have faltered the most without him at the position they were playing, offensively or defensively.
Well, I would say Burrow, Brady, and Rodgers all
Burrow.
have a case.
That's why I say.
I think all three of them have a case. You take any of them off those teams
right,
probably don't make the playoffs.
And it does become close. I don't think Kupp was probably a viable candidate for MVP as much as he was for Offensive Player of the Year. Only simply because I thought that the Rams had a lot to surround Cooper Kupp. And they had a more than adequate, decent quarterback.
There you go. You're late, man.
That's my bad, man.
All right, we're talking about the NFL honors last night, if you got to see it at all, and your take on who the MVP should have been. Do you think it should have been Rodgers, or do you think it should have been somebody else?
Well, good morning, actually. Good morning, everyone. For me,
good afternoon to you, isn't it?
I'm sorry?
Good afternoon to you, isn't it?
No, it's actually still morning now because I'm in Florida.
Oh, you're in Florida. Well, it's 11 o'clock. Yeah, at the same time.
Yeah. So for me, I think Aaron Rodgers, he was my NFL MVP. Obviously, prior to the playoffs, I was thinking, if they did the voting after the playoffs, I don't think Aaron Rodgers would have won the MVP. But I think the overall season that he had, especially with the limited turnovers, and I think a lot of persons were talking about Tom Brady, but I think Tom Brady threw the ball significantly more than Aaron Rodgers, and I believe that there were also certain times where it seemed like Tampa was forcing the MVP on Tom Brady. So I have no problem with Aaron winning the MVP, but seeing how everything played out now, I'd probably give the MVP to Joe Burrow. If it was me, I'd probably give it to him because I think he did more with less. Being in a different division. I think the division that Aaron was in is an easy division, but the one that Joe is in with the Pittsburgh, the Browns, and the Ravens, I think when they take out into totality, I'll probably give it to Joe Burrow. But I have no problem with their getting it.
Yeah, I agree. I think Burrow should have won it. I think Brady deserved it more to Rodgers. You talked about Brady throwing the ball a lot more to Rodgers. That's because you had Leonard Fournette injured. You had a lot of injuries in the running game, and everything was kind of on Brady's shoulders. And they were still winning games at the end of the season to get to the playoffs.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, to me, I think Brady and Burrow were better picks than Rodgers. And we got Joseph Michael. Steve, he says you're a closet Rams fan.
Oh, I'm not a closet Rams fan. I'm a Rams fan. I live in L.A. I mean, I got to be some degree of a Rams fan.
Nobody else in L.A. is a Rams fan.
Well, then there's one of us, so we got that going for us. No, but I mean, I'm a Homer Colts guy, so there's no doubt about that. But if my Colts aren't playing, I'm going to root for the Rams. You know, so I'll take that. Not that I don't like the Bengals, because I rooted for the Bengals before the Colts ever came to Indianapolis. So it's a long and drawn out story that we don't want to waste a lot of time on this morning.
All right, so we'll move on. NFL Coach of the Year last night, Mike Vrabel. I have a huge issue with this one. What do you guys think?
Go ahead.
I'm really excited to know what issue you have with really. But for me, I think he getting Coach of the Year based on everything that were with Tennessee, and they were still able to remain number one seed. Losing the spider of their team, Derrick Henry. Having players in and out, AJ Brown, Julio Jones, some players on the defense in and out, and still being able to maintain that number one seed in AFC. I think that is something that you have to hold the coach to a standard for that. And I have no problems with him being coach of the year, but I'm excited to hear why why you didn't like this pick.
Well, my issue is this.
Well,
Last
let me
year,
go first. Let me go
okay, go
first,
ahead.
so then you can go ahead and take the floor on this, because I know you've got a lot to say on it. I agree. I think he's as good a selection as anybody. He did lose various players throughout the course of the season, and not only did he still win the AFC South, he did retain the number one seed in the AFC, and to do that with losing your MVP player, I think says a lot about being able to fill in and backfill and get other people to step up. So for that reason, I'm okay with that. I don't know that there was a clear-cut coach. I know you're going to want to give it to Zach Taylor. And, right now you're feeling like everybody as a Bengal is an MVP of something. Justifiably in 2005, when the Colts went there, I felt the same way about the Colts, that none of those players could live without each other. So I don't know that anybody earned that award any more than he did, and I'm okay with him getting it. I think it's as good a choice as anything. And let's hear your story, Mike. I'm
It's
sure
not a
you've got one.
story. It is facts. Last year, Mike Vrabel won 11 games. This year, he won 12. Everybody talks about Derrick Henry getting hurt. Foreman was as good as Henry. He averaged the exact same amount of yards per carry. And if you watch that playoff game, if Vrabel would have ran Foreman in that game, because Foreman's a better matchup against the Bengals defense than Henry, who's more of a between the tackles runner, and you get DJ Reader there that can shut that down. So I don't, and they were in a bad division. I mean, it's just a bad division. I mean, the Colts were an all right team. The Jaguars were terrible. The Texans were terrible. You've got Zach Taylor last year won 4 games. This year he won 10. I mean, the Bengals were in last place week 9 of this season. I don't think people remember that. And they played in a division much tougher than what the AFC South is. So I think when you look at the fact that Zach Taylor took them from 4 wins to 10 wins, Mike Vrabel was 11 wins to 12 wins. I just think that Zach Taylor deserved this. I think that the issue overall is that this award was probably decided 2 or 3 weeks before the season was over, anyways. I think most of them are, where people get their mind made up on something. But I still,
Mike, let me interrupt you real quickly if I can. If you think it was made up 2 or 3 weeks before, why wasn't it given to Belichick? I mean, up until the last 2 or 3 weeks of the season,
I don't think
the Patriots had done as good a job as anybody with a suspect quarterback.
Well, and to tell you the truth, my second choice behind Zach Taylor would be Bill Belichick.
Yeah,
I mean, because that Patriots team was not very good. He got them to the playoffs, and he damn near won the division.
Yeah.
And if you watched them against Buffalo, you'll realize that was not a playoff talented football team. So that was a lot of coaching there too. But I also think this. I think Bill Belichick is probably going to have to go undefeated to ever win a Coach of the Year again.
Yeah, I'd say his 15 minutes of fame are drawing on their last straw.
I don't
right
think they're
now
drawing
for a
on their
while.
last legs because I think the way he's building this team means next year they're going to be better than they were this year. And by the time
Yeah,
they're done, if Mac Jones is legit and an above average quarterback, Bill Belichick's going to be in the playoffs every year, anyways, because he's
yeah.
Bill Belichick. The dude figures shit out, for
I
lack of a
think
better term.
this. I think if the Bengals keep their heads screwed on straight, keep everybody healthy, keep that unit together and growing and keep adding to it, it's no consolation to you, I know, but I think the Bengals are going to be winning more than their fair share of league recognition awards in the years to come, the near foreseeable future here. Again, no consolation to you. There are players and coaches that are deserving, but the future is bright for the Cincinnati Bengals, probably the brightest of any team in the NFL right now, goes without saying.
Yeah, but you know what? In 1988, the Bengals had the youngest team in football. They lost 20-16 to the
Yeah, but
49ers.
they
And
had
won
Mike
and
Brown involved more than he is today.
well, I'm telling you, you never know when stuff goes away. You
Yeah,
know, I mean, this is the thing. 2 years ago, everybody would have thought Patrick Mahomes would have won another Super Bowl or two by now because
Absolutely.
it looked that dominant. But then they win the Super Bowl. The next year they come out, they get blown out by Tampa Bay in the playoffs. This year they blow a 21-3 lead to a team there's more than a touchdown favorite to. So the thing about, and that's the thing that makes what Brady and Belichick did in New England so special, because it's really hard to do. You remember the greatest show on turf in '99. That Rams team, everybody thought they're going to win multiple Super Bowls. They got back one time, that was it. So, I mean, you never know when it's your last shot. I remember the first time I interviewed Chris Collinsworth, 2013. The first thing he brought up was the fact that, my rookie year, we went to the Super Bowl, and he said, I thought, shit, this is going to be easy. I'm going to go to the Super Bowl every year. And he said, I'm sitting there 5 or 6 years later thinking, damn, I hope I get to the Super Bowl one more time before I retire.
did not.
So
Absolutely.
this is a hard thing to do. There's 32 teams in this league. Everybody's good. It is hard to be. And we got Countryman says that the Patriots will be a force to reckon with. The Patriots' issue is going to be Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, and Josh Allen. Because Mac Jones, I think, is a really good quarterback, but I don't think he's ever going to be like those three guys. So, comeback player of the year, Dak Prescott or Joe Burrow. Everybody agree with that, or anybody disagree?
I agree. I agree with the winner for that one.
Well, we already
I
talked.
could have went either way with it because
Yeah,
I mean they both had great years after horrific injuries.
again, my comment only was I don't know which is a more severe injury to come back from, a compound fracture of the ankle or an ACL destroyed knee. Seems more players tear up their ACLs and come back than do a compound fracture. Probably only because that injury happens more frequently. But I was fortunate in my career; I never had to deal with either one of those. So I have no problem with Joe Burrow getting that award. I just don't want it to ever be conceived of as just a token award. We got to give Joe Burrow something. Let's give him the Comeback Player of the Year award because the young man deserves all the recognition he gets this year.
But I was thinking along the lines that okay, Dak Prescott has been in the league, for a certain amount of years, but Joe Burrow, this is his first real healthy season in NFL, and obviously he had the injury last season. So I believe that what he was able to do, how he was able to come back and produce this season, I'd have to give him the edge, over Dak
Yeah.
Prescott.
Yeah, I think also the fact that his injury happened late November last year, where Dax was week 5. And a lot of people around here were questioning whether he would even be ready for the start of the season. And I mean, the first half of the season, he was not as good as he was the last half, but I think a lot of that was just getting confidence back in that. So we have a question through a Twitter direct message, and Chris wants to know who would be our top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL right now. Steve, I'll let you start.
Top 5 quarterbacks right now. Wow. I mean, I really got to give that some thought. I mean, you got to throw Burrow in there. You've got to throw Stafford in there. I still think Kyler Murray deserves to be in there. I think as long as he's playing, you still got to count Aaron Rodgers. And the fifth one, I got to go somebody obscure because I'm missing.
I don't think
ton of
anybody's
people.
obscure in the NFL, Steve. And plus, you're supposed to give us your top five, 1 through 5.
Well, I mean, I wasn't prepared to answer that question. I didn't do a lot of research on it. Lamar Jackson still, I think. If somebody ever reined Lamar Jackson in and turned him into a quarterback, I think he'd be a top 5. So I'm going to say Lamar Jackson.
Okay.
Those would be my off the top of my head 5 picks.
All right. Who would be your 1, 2, 3?
My 1, 2, 3? Me?
Yeah. You.
Burrow, Stafford. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm leaving out the obvious one. Mahomes. Burrow, Mahomes, and Stafford would be my top 3 right now.
I think your notes on the Stafford. But all right, go ahead. Give us your top 5.
My top 5 are in obviously not no particular order, but I have Aaron Rodgers. I have Patrick Mahomes. I have Josh Allen. I have Joe Burrow. And I'll put Matthew Stafford in there as well. And then for the top 3, I have to put Aaron Rodgers. I put Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes, and Matt Stafford.
My only fear with the Aaron Rodgers is, and we saw it with Brady, when guys their age start to slide, and this is going to be hard to take, and Mike's going to beat me up on this.
Because he hasn't slid yet.
Well, but he wasn't able to carry his team like he carried them last year. And so he may not have slid statistically, but in terms of getting the job done, he may have slid some.
And what happened?
The point I was trying to make is that slide starts to get real precipitous real quickly when those guys go. Now you could see Rodgers come in next year and have a statistically decent year, but not be able to lead his team anymore or make the big plays that we're so used to him making it. I kind of felt that way about Brady. I just felt like I didn't have that air of confidence about Tom Brady in the playoffs that I had last year, when it's like, oh, God, I'm never going to bet against Brady. This year there are times when I felt I should have bet against Brady just because he's not there ability-wise to get it done as sharply as he has been in the previous 21 seasons of his NFL career. That's all. So I think for Aaron Rodgers, when he starts to slide, that slide seems to go quick. That's it, Mike. Go ahead.
All righty. We got Country Man, Brady, Rodgers, Mahomes, Allen, and Burrow. I don't see how anybody can have.
I forgot Allen too. Yeah, see Allen. See, it's going first is hard. Yeah, I forgot Josh Allen. God, forget it. I got to change my whole list.
To me, I think it is hands down. It is Burrow. It is
Allen and Mahomes.
I think
no doubt.
The 3 best. I mean, my problem here with Rodgers is the dude hasn't gotten to a Super Bowl in a decade?
Yeah.
No, he hadn't won one in a decade. And he has lost 3 or 4 home playoff games where he's the higher seed. That's the thing that sticks out to me more than anything.
Yeah.
It's just like, go ahead.
But I have a question because, when you talk about he has won a playoff game, I think when you're asking about who is a great quarterback or who is a big quarterback, I think that is an individual thing. So it comes down to individual talent. I think when you're talking about winning playoff games, I don't think you really find someone who single-handedly wins a playoff game. Like look at the game with Tennessee versus Cincinnati, for example. If Ryan Tannehill wasn't so bad, and they had just a decent quarterback for Tennessee, will they have a different conversation about Joe Burrow today?
See, I think this. I think the issue I have with that is the fact that when guys like Aaron Rodgers or anybody throws an interception, everybody blames the quarterback. The defense had to make a play. And, you may have a bad throw, and I agree with you there. But I think this. I think when I judge a quarterback,
Mike, that holds true unless you're Carson Wentz. Defense doesn't have to make a play when Carson Wentz throws the football.
Defense definitely has to make a play then because he's going to throw it right to him. They have no choice but to make a play.
Then they got to catch it because it's going to hit him right in the numbers.
What I see when I look at quarterbacks is this. I don't care about individual ability. I care about a quarterback's ability to make everybody around him better. It's kind of like in basketball. Give me Magic Johnson or Larry Bird over anybody that ever played because they made everybody around them better. The thing about Burrow is, and Mahomes and Allen, there's this confidence their teams have in them that is beyond anything you see with a guy like Aaron Rodgers. I mean, and I'll go back to it. I've interviewed a lot of guys, and I've interviewed a lot of guys that have played with Aaron Rodgers. None of them ever talked great about how awesome it was to play with Aaron Rodgers. But I talked to guys that played with Brady or Montana, and they talk about what a great guy he was to play with. I mean, Aaron Rodgers to me is an individual in a team sport. He is a great individual, but individuals don't win football games. And I think when you look at this, I mean, in fairness, I probably should have Mahomes second over Allen because Allen did lose to him the last 2 years in the playoffs. But I also think that was more coaching than anything else because Buffalo played a soft cover 2 the entire game and continued to do it, which was absolutely moronic. But my difference between Burrow and Mahomes is just their footwork. I mean, if you watch Mahomes, a lot of times his legs will get really spread wide. And, he'll fling the ball sidearm. I'm talking, well, that's so awesome that he can throw like that. But against the Bengals, he threw an interception to B.J. Hill because he dropped down and he threw the ball like that. Nobody was talking about, oh, look at the way he's throwing it, because that's not an awesome way to throw a football. You can get away with it from time to time, but you can't get away with it all the time. And I think Ryan Tannehill's a good quarterback. He's just not on the level of these guys. But I mean, really, if I'm Steve Risley, if you tell me Ryan Tannehill will come replace Carson Wentz tomorrow, I would jump all over that if I was a Colts fan. Because, Ryan Tannehill did have his team in the championship game not too long ago.
That's
You know what I mean? So
Between those two, Mike, I would say that Tannehill's the cream of the crop.
I think Tannehill's a good quarterback. I mean,
he's a notch above Wentz.
Yeah, which is a good quarterback. Wentz is a slightly above average guy who right now is in. Wentz's biggest problem is he's a me guy. He's aloof as hell. I don't think he's happy handing the ball off to Jonathan Taylor 30 times a game while he throws it 15 or 20. I think he's a selfish football player. I think Aaron Rodgers is a selfish football player. I don't think Joe Burrow is. I don't think Josh Allen is. I don't think Patrick Mahomes is. I think that's why they're the three best. And the great thing for all of us is all three of these guys are under 26 years old.
Yeah, have a lot of years to see them grow for sure.
Yeah,
there's no doubt, Mike. It's a changing of the guard of the quarterbacks. I mean, this year, 2022 or 2021, 2022 season will go down as the changing of the guard of the year of the quarterbacks. You got three new ones that are coming in and taking over. Rodgers and Brady and some of the older guys. They're on their way down.
Yeah, Breeze left last year. Those were probably the three
Breeze
big guys
left.
that were left.
Yeah. You replaced Breeze, Brady, and Rodgers for the most part with the new triumphant three. And so that's good and healthy for football, though. I have no problem with that whatsoever.
All right. So, what's your take on the Super Bowl?
So for Super Bowl for me, I'm going with the Rams to win. I just think, I think it's a cool story, obviously, for the Bengals and Joe Burrow, and I learned not to underestimate Joe Burrow, especially championship games, because the guy confidence is through the roof. But when I look at Rams team, and I'm talking about when I look at special teams, when I look at defense, when I look at arms, when I look at coaching, I'm looking at it, I'm saying, man, Tennessee was able to sack Joe Burrow 9 times. Aaron Donald, Von Miller, Leonard Floyd, all these guys. I think it's going to be a long, long, long day for Joe Burrow. I mean, obviously, I think he'll tease. And then when I look on the other side of the ball, and I'm seeing, Cooper Kupp, Odell Beckham, Jefferson, all those guys, I'm saying, I can't see a way where the Bengals win. But, I've been saying that from after the race game because I never see a way how they would have beat Tennessee.
Well, the thing is this: the Bengals have the best pair of safeties in football.
Absolutely.
And last week or 2 weeks ago, the same thing was said. How can they cover Tyreek Hill, Mercole Hardeman, Travis Kelce? And they did. And you talk about coaching, it was directly because of the coaching. I've never seen a game where Sean McVay turned the game around with something he did to change, because he doesn't change. He believes in his system. He thinks it overcomes everything, which is why he lost to the Patriots, 2 or 3 years ago. So when I look at this also, Kansas City's got a pretty good pass rush. They only got to Burrow once because the Bengals changed the way they blocked. When they played the Titans, go ahead.
Well, I wouldn't say they only got to Burrow once because they got to Burrow a lot. What Burrow did, he was very elusive. So if you look at some of those plays, he was really able to whine and wiggle and to get out of it by himself.
But why wasn't he allowed to do that against Tennessee? Why couldn't he do that against Tennessee?
I'm not sure. Can you tell me?
Yeah, I believe I can.
I just want to make one comment real quick. Yeah, you talked about Burrow's getting sacked 9 times. He won that game. I don't know of many quarterbacks in the NFL that have been sacked 9 times and win the game.
There's never been one in a playoff game to get sacked 9 times. And I'll tell you.
And won the game.
The difference is this. The Cincinnati Bengals, when they played the Tennessee Titans, went with a lot of 5 wide receivers, where they go 3 wide receivers or 4 wide receivers, and then they would run Mixon or whoever the running back was into the route also. They did it the whole game. They never adjusted. They got beat up. The problem with only going with 5, they're bringing 6. They've always got somebody coming free, and they're coming free quickly. The difference was against Kansas City, they went with a lot more 2 tight ends and keeping the running back in the block. So they had numbers on the offensive line. So even if the O-line gets blown up, they're not blown up immediately, which gives Burrow a chance to get to the back of his set. Once he's at the back of his drop, if there's one guy coming clear, it's easy for him to move out of the pocket. The problem against Tennessee was without the extra blockers, you would have 2 guys come clear and basically have him hemmed in. So I think that this is overrated if the Bengals block the Rams the exact same way they did the Chiefs. Because if they keep Mixon or Ryan in to block and they only put 3 wide receivers in the route, you're all right there. My issue is this. You talked about the Rams and how you defend their receivers. The Bengals have the 2 best safeties, I think, in tandem in football, Jesse Bates and Von Bell. Von Bell's an experienced guy. You've got a Woozy at the one corner who graded out as a top 5 corner in the NFL this year. You got Apple on the other side, which worries us, but also he does make some big plays. The big thing here is Trey Flowers, number 33. He's the guy that basically took Travis Kelce away in the second half last week and helped take away Tyreek Hill. Because he's 6'3", he's 220 pounds, but he's a corner. You can put him on the slot receiver and kind of eliminate that. So if you got Tyreek Hill or if you've got Cooper Kupp in the slot, you can put Trey Flowers on him, jam him the way they did Hill, and then have Bates over top of him. You double team, you take that away. You got a Woozy against Beckham. And the other thing is this. The Bengals got to Patrick Mahomes, who has a better offensive line than the Rams, and they sacked him 4 times. I think people are forgetting here. The Bengals have Trey Hendrickson, who had more sacks than Aaron Donald this year at 14.5. And on the other side, you got Sam Hubbard, who sacked, Patrick Mahomes back-to-back plays in the AFC Championship game. I think these 2 teams are they're very similar. And I think the difference in this game will come at quarterback. And I think when that difference comes, I think there's a huge difference between Joe Burrow and Matthew Stafford. And I think Matthew Stafford is a hell of a quarterback. And to tell you the truth, if it wasn't my team playing him, I would cheer for him and Andrew Whitworth in a heartbeat. If you saw Andrew Whitworth on the NFL Honors last night accept the NFL Man of the Year, that's what you want your son to grow up to be. And he was a Cincinnati Bengal for 15 years, and he was the exact same way in the community here. So when I look at this game, I also really think, and this may sound crazy, but I think sometimes we see teams that are just destined to win things. And I think that's kind of what we've seen the last couple weeks. Because as a Bengals fan, I was a hell of a lot more worried going to Tennessee or Kansas City than I am going to Los Angeles.
Oh, games on Sunday. Um, games on Sunday, so we'll definitely see. But and you said there is you said something earlier, like you said there is this. Sometimes it's just destiny. Like some teams go through adversity and they're just destined to win. I feel that way about the Rams in terms of getting the trade for Jared Stafford for Jared Goff, having Odell Beckham Jr. and Von Miller come over. Rams being in the Super Bowl already against the Patriots where they were embarrassed. I just Aaron Donald, just a Super Bowl missing from his resume. When I look at all the things compiled, I just don't see how the Rams lose. They might lose, but for me, I'm rolling. I'm a gambling man, and I went ahead and I put some money on the Rams because I just can't see how the Rams lose this game for me.
Well,
Well, let's do this real quickly. Mike, read Matthew's comment here. I'm not
Where's
going to
Matt?
touch this
Where?
one with a 10-foot pole.
I didn't
I'm
see
leaving
it.
this
Hold on.
one to you.
Hi guys, I need help. I'm deciding on making a $5,000 bet with my friend. The bet is he thinks the Bengals will be up at halftime, and I think the Rams will be up at halftime. Should I take the bet? We'll leave this to the new guy. He said he was a betting man.
Yeah.
Do you think? Personally, I would take the bet. Obviously, we know when Sean McVay is up at halftime, he normally wins the game out from that one time against the 49ers.
Hey, Andy Reid was 42-0 until he met the Bengals having a lead at halftime. So,
yeah. So, me personally, I would take the bet because I like the risk. $5,000,
You're not betting your money, though. You're
that's why he likes the risk.
It is money. You want to take that bet with me?
Until Matthew comes
with
looking
me right
for you.
now?
Wrong.
You want to put your own $5,000 down and take that bet? Yeah, there you go. There's a fair weather fan for you.
It's easier to bet other people's money, Steve.
Yeah, of course,
yeah.
absolutely. But I think it's a risk. I mean, obviously, when you're betting, it's a risk. Nothing is guaranteed, nothing is certain. It can be the first play Matthew Stafford gets hurt.
My take on it is this: if you really believe the Rams are going to win, you're going to believe they're leading at halftime. Because if they're not, they're going to lose.
Yep.
I mean, because I think, and the thing is, the Bengals are really young, and the old saying is, they don't know what they don't know. And I think they come out, and the pressure here is on the Rams and Matthew Stafford. Because if Stafford loses this game, the rest of his life he's got to hear Matt Stafford can't win the big game. Because that's all we've heard up to this point.
He won 3 of them, though.
Huh?
He won 3 of them, though.
It doesn't matter. We're talking about perception.
Okay.
People still, I mean, Aaron Rodgers wins a playoff game almost every year. But he loses before he gets to what he's supposed to get. Quarterbacks are judged differently than probably about any other athletes in the world.
Absolutely.
So that's what I'm saying. That pressure's all on him. And I think if you get the Bengals, if they were to come out and Jamar Chase goes 80 yards for a touchdown right away, and Matthew Stafford makes one of those stupid throws he makes every once in a while, I think this could get out of hand for them. So I think if you're betting the Rams, you'd almost have to take this bet. And if you look at the history of these teams, the Bengals are probably the best second half team in football. And they're one of the worst starting teams in football. So, I mean, you've got that also. I could see why you would make the bet, but I wouldn't bet $5,000 on any damn thing.
Me either. I'll tell you that.
Hell no.
That's way out of my league.
Damn, I'll tell you, I bet $40 on a game tonight, the Xavier game and the basketball game, and I'm feeling kind of rough because I usually only bet 20 or 30.
I have come to the realization that I am far too materialistic to gamble that much money.
Hey, I put $30 in my FanDuel account January the 1st. I'm sitting with like $300 right now, so I'm feeling pretty happy. And that means I got hot because I'm hitting a lot of $30 bets. The problem with only betting $30, you need to win like 3 out of every 4 to really make it pay off.
Like I put 75 in mine, and I couldn't even tell you how to go bet that 75.
Well, I'm going to show you on air at some
Yeah.
point because they want to. That way we can teach you how to bet, then you can get all hooked on betting. But I want to remind everybody real quick, we're not just sports betting. Betting.net compares the best online casinos. Sit back, relax, and play the top online slots, poker, and table games. Steve, you got anything else you want to talk about, or either one of you guys do?
No, not really. How's our bobsledding team doing out there? Are they ready to go?
Oh, honestly, I don't really know much about the bobsled team that they have going on. I really don't know too much
So in
about
other
it.
words, what you're saying is you, like the rest of the world, haven't been watching the Olympics either.
Absolutely.
No.
There
Absolutely.
The
you
Olympics
go.
are stupid. They
I
ruined
agree.
the Olympics years ago. Started
Yeah.
paying them off, then they start going to China. I'm not down with that. When you got
I
a
did
place putting
watch. I
people in
did watch
internment camps, I really don't
Shaun
want to
White.
watch the Olympics.
I did watch Shaun White call it a career last night.
Whoever that is. Who's Shaun White?
Hey, he's a half piper, whatever a half pipe
Does
does.
that mean he does crack?
He
Half
cracked
piper?
last night. He definitely cracked last night.
Oh, nobody cares. It's the Olympics. Hey, you want to tell us where everybody can find your show?
Oh. So we have a show. Well, I am Sure Sports. I have a separate podcast. The name of that podcast is Sports Frenzy, where we speak about a whole lot of sports. We speak about soccer, track and field, basketball, NFL. The totality of sports. As you know, the World Championships is coming up in the summer. That's track and field. But we are there every single day, Monday to Friday at 8 p.m. So it's Sports Frenzy on YouTube, Sports Frenzy, that's with a Z, on Facebook as well. So definitely, and I would love if you guys could come on at any given time, any point in
Anytime,
time.
as long as you're not talking soccer or track and field. Those are both out of my
Okay, well,
wheelhouse.
we can talk some. We can talk some. So we can, after the Super Bowl, definitely we can talk. And,
You
we
guys
can
talk
about
NASCAR? Do you
You
talk
can teach me.
NASCAR?
You can teach me some NASCAR. I don't know much about it, but you can teach
You're
me
not
some.
missing much. Steve's always looking for somebody to talk NASCAR with. I'm not that person.
Hey, they put 50,000 people in the Coliseum here last Sunday
Good for them.
on a quarter-mile track
And
with
nobody gave a shit.
23 750 horsepower cars.
That's great. They're not athletes either, are they?
Yeah, they are athletes.
They're not athletes. Come on, Steve.
Yeah.
Shit. The car's the athlete. The car does all the work.
No, it doesn't.
It's like horse racing. Come on, the athlete's the damn horse. So, and nobody watches that anymore. I like basically pay attention to college basketball and the NFL and college football now. So, I
Stick and
used
ball
to watch
sports.
everything.
Stick and ball sports. Old
Well,
school.
Yeah, it's better than NASCAR, Steve.
Yep.
So you admit it.
I admit nothing. No, I have nothing further to say. Other than the only thing I'm rooting for in the Olympics is the Jamaican bobsledding team to get down the hill in one piece.
Absolutely.
That's a victory for that team.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, that's a victory for any team from what I see in the Olympics. A lot of people crashing. I know Steve's a big figure skating fan, though. But all right. So we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. Unless you got anything else? Anybody got anything?
Nothing else, boss. Just thank you so much, for having me. Obviously, it's always a pleasure, to discuss NFL with you guys. So thanks so much.
Yeah, and make sure you guys check out Sports Frenzy. And let's do this also. If you could send me over a link to that, I can put it in the link in the description of our YouTube show so people can click it and take directly to where you do your show at.
Absolutely, for sure. Thank you so much.
All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. Remember, you can follow us at Grilling Truth. Follow us on Facebook. Our shows can all be heard on Spotify, iHeartRadio, and over 300 other outlets. So for now, that's Steve Risley. I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been watching and listening to The Grilling Truth, where the legends speak.